Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Retro Wrestling Room. We are back with another interview today. We have somebody who has taken the deathmatch scene by storm the last couple of years. We have the one and only murder surgeon in the house, Dr Redacted. How's it going, mate? Welcome to the channel.
Thank you so much. It's going great. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. It's so good to have you on. I've been a fan for a few years now. I first actually heard of you through, I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube, the Jobber Radio channel.
Very good channel.
Yes, brilliant channel. Really
The production
highlights.
is excellent.
What was that? Sorry.
I said the production is excellent.
Oh, it's so good. He really highlights the deathmatch scene, and for somebody who wasn't particularly well versed in that scene, to watch those videos, especially the end of year videos, when you're watching those, you just learn so much. And he puts up stats and how many the percentage of wins and things. It's unbelievable, really. So yeah, that's how I felt about you guys.
He's a real stickler for statistics and numbers.
100%. Actually, let's throw up a slideshow first. For people who may not have seen you before, here are some of the clips of Dr. Redacted actually in action. Here we see some of the clips from GCW, etc., ICW. For people who kind of wondering how you got started in the deathmatch scene, you actually started and you weren't particularly known as a deathmatch wrestler, I don't believe.
Nope.
We had the Dr. Cube character. There was also the American Beetle character as well.
Yep.
So how did you actually get into the deathmatch scene, so to say?
So, in Kaiju, where I was Dr. Cube and the American Beetle, at points they would be like, "Hey, do you think you would jump off that really high balcony over there?" And I would think they were like kidding around, but here I am thinking they were serious, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And they're like, "No, you really don't have to do it." But then I was like, "No, I'll do it. It's fine. I'll be sick. Let's do it." And then I started doing it, and I guess it caught some eyes, and then unfortunately COVID happened, and what was it? So like COVID's happening, and I started doing the Dr. Cube and sometimes American Beetle like on the indies more and outside of Kaiju. And then I got an invitation one year for this company VXS, who was doing a show at the Collective, and they said they wanted Dr. Cube to face JTG from Crime Time, the old WWE tag team, in a death match or like a hardcore match. And I was like, yeah, let's fucking do it. This will be great. We had some like stories leading into it and everything, like an invasion angle and all this stuff. And then the day of, they're like, hey, we got light tubes for you. We got tacks and we got all the good stuff. And I was like, let's do it. And then here we are doing all the wacky, crazy stuff. So that was kind of like my into it.
When you like were growing up watching wrestling, were you always drawn to that side like straight away, or is this something that kind of happened over time?
It's a little bit of both. It's a tricky one because I'm from New York originally, so I grew up watching ECW, and I was like, "Wow, this is awesome! This is the coolest shit I have ever seen."
Yeah.
Are we allowed to curse on here?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, feel free.
Okay. I'm not that I'm gonna go crazy with it. I'm just making sure I'm not getting anyone in trouble. So I was really drawn to that and like the spectacle of it, and then like early 2000s, I got really into Ring of Honor, which was like the not the anti that, but it was more the mat wrestling base, and I was super into that. But then I started coming back around to it, and then they had that really hilarious ECW resurgence, and I just ended up loving all wrestling at that point. So It was started, left, came back, so to say.
As if it was kind of like written in the stars type thing, kind of like a
Yeah.
destiny thing. You actually went to the same high school as Mick Foley, right?
Yep, sure did. And Kevin James, which is also hilarious.
Wow, that's kind of a weird combo there.
Yeah. They went to high school the same year.
Oh,
They
that's
were on the
right.
same
I do remember
yeah.
reading that in his
They were on the
book,
same
actually.
wrestling team. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten all about that. Oh, wow. Um, this past weekend, you were actually in the main event and you fought for the GCW heavyweight title against Effy.
Sure did.
What was that like? Because GCW's kind of become your like home promotion, I guess. It's like the main one that a lot of people know you for these days.
Yeah, that and ICW are the two that I'm like that people associate me with, those two. It's been great. This was definitely a different match. I think a lot of people going into it were unsure if it was going to be like, is it going to be all crazy blood and guts, or is it going to be all Effie style stuff? And then it was kind of the perfect blend of both, in my opinion. So if anyone hasn't seen it, I suggest you go watch it.
Yeah, obviously these clips are from the feed that we watched on Triller. Here in the UK, that's how we always get the GCW events.
Hell yeah.
It was a really good show. As part of GCW, and because you're such a big fan of the hardcore history of wrestling, you got to wrestle in the Hammerstein Ballroom this past year. I mean, if you're ever into hardcore wrestling, obviously the Hammerstein Ballroom has got such a massive history. What was it like to wrestle there?
It was a literal like, I don't want to sound like a super fanboy, but it was like a dream come true. Like that was the first ever Monday Night Raw. It was ECW.
Yeah.
That was Ring of Honor. It was just all of that stuff. It was like the coolest thing, honestly. Because like as a New Yorker, it's like there's that, then Madison Square Garden, and no offense, I don't see myself wrestling at Madison Square Garden anytime soon. But you know, never say never. I didn't ever see myself wrestling at Hammerstein Ballroom either. So, and then the fact that I'm sure it'll show in a second, but we have that insane clip from the off the ladder. So, and that one too. That's a good one also.
That's one of the most
But
perfectly timed spots ever. It was, I know,
yeah,
you know, Matt sold it exceedingly well as well, but it's just one of those spots that you just look at it and you're like, oh, there we go.
yeah, there it is, dead.
I mean, what are your thoughts, like going through your head when you're doing like a massive spot like that?
It's one of those things where that spot is like what, 4 seconds, but
Yeah.
it feels like 4 minutes or 40 minutes, and you're just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and then you hit, and like the first thing I go to is moving fingers and toes. Okay, we're still here. This is good. So it's just you kind of hope for the best.
Have there ever been any moments like during these hardcore matches that you've been pitched, say backstage, or you know an opponent's pitched to you, and you're like, absolutely not?
I've had a few people that were, and this is funny because I'm a doctor, that want to do syringes. I'm not super big on stuff like that. Like that, like scissors, barefoot stuff, going like, I know there's a time and place for everything. It's just not particularly my cup of tea, but I don't really say no to too much. So you catch me on the right day and we'll probably do something stupid.
But like when you're like, say when you go to like wrestling school and things, you know, you obviously learn to take back bumps, you know, and you build up and you build up, you build up running the ropes, you know, you used to lifting your arm in a certain way and everything. When you have that first death match, it's not as if you can say in the gym, right, we're going to practice light tubes today. You know, it's not something that you practice beforehand. You know, like you've kind of just got to do it in that moment, right?
it's kind of like on the job training. Like people will always give you tips and tricks and like advice, and that's cool. And I very much appreciate anyone who's ever given me that stuff. But it kind of only goes so far because it depends on your dancing partner. It depends on like what's actually happening in the heat of the moment type thing. So it is a lot of on the job training. The only time I can ever say during wrestling training, something wacko happened like that is they brought in Just Incredible once to be like a guest trainer. I think he was supposed to be like the permanent trainer for a while, but after this class, they were like, Justin, I think you should go find somewhere else to work. So they wanted to bring him in, but this was at like a bad time in his life. I'll say we'll use the term he was battling some demons at the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, we're going to practice bumping on the concrete from the ring apron. And the guy who was like in charge of the school was like, actually, let's not do that. And kind of distracted him for the rest of the class. And it was kind of just like, all right, well, we're doing rolls for the rest of the day then. So, but yeah, there's that one time. But other than that, it's kind of like you just like I said, you kind of have to just learn on the fly.
So when you first say your first death match, did you like slowly build up, or was it just no, I'm going full hog at this?
It was just going full into it. Like, I had done like doors or a table or chairs and stuff like that. But, nothing prepares you for doing like I said, if you ever get the chance, it's me and JTG, and he's a very big, strong man. And when that man swings a bundle of light tubes clean across your back, there's nothing that can prepare you for that. So you just have to grit your teeth and hope for the best.
Unfortunately, you didn't get to come to the UK a few weeks ago, which is a huge shame. But you have travelled, around the world. You went to Japan a few years ago, and you're actually going back this year as well.
Yeah, a few months.
I saw ICW No Holds Barred announced yourself and a few of the other American wrestlers. What was it like going to Japan the first time? What was that tour like?
It was really cool. It was such an eye opener because I'd never been to Japan before. I've been to like a few countries here and there. Been to England once. I got to wrestle at Alexandria Palace with Progress and Kaiju Big Battle, and that was really cool. But like Japan, and this is not a knock on any other country, but Japan has always been my number one go-to, even if it wasn't just for wrestling, just to visit.
Right.
So getting to go there and see all the stuff that I wanted to see and do all the stuff that I wanted to do, literally in one trip, I don't want to say I could die happy because there's so much, you want to do and everything like that. But in that one trip, I got to wrestle at Korakuen Hall. I got to tour all over Japan. I got to get my Ribera jacket. I was in the Japanese magazines twice. I got to do a lot, and I was really proud of that. There were some parts of it that I thought were going to be a lot more glamorous or ooh, ah. And I was like, oh no, this is indie wrestling. But it was really great. I'm happy I did it. Things I have definitely learned since last time, and we'll go into it next time with my eyes more open, so to say. But other than that, it was great. Japan is really cool. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's absolutely fantastic.
No, but like you, that is the one place that I'd love to go in the world. Ever since I was young, I don't know why, I was just always drawn to the Japanese culture. But yeah, it's just somewhere that we've always wanted to go, me and my wife. So I think, well, we actually with our friends in America, we've talked about going next year. So, fingers crossed that is going to be something that does come true. Yeah, definitely. Somebody who was mentioned for that Japan tour is somebody I don't think you have wrestled before, an actual legend in the deathmatch scene, young Kasai, the crazy, the crazy monkey. It's too early, and I don't want to, jinx it just in case. But how good would it be to wrestle the Crazy Monkey in Japan.
It would be insane. Like, it's really cool. Friday, I'm wrestling Takeda
Yeah.
and in Detroit, which will be really cool with John Wayne Murdoch, which is just literally like the best from here, the best from there. Like, it's nuts. But to wrestle Jun Kasai, especially in Japan, brother, like that would be nuts. So that would like, honestly, wrestling him anywhere would just be like the coolest thing. But in Japan would be like, it's hard to put into words because it's like, it would be top tier, top of the list.
Because I think, for years and years, even before, kind of like when you used to watch these like old CZW like clip videos that was like on YouTube in the very, very early days when it was like terrible quality, etc. Watching you'd see these Young Kasai clips and you were like, oh my word, who is this guy?
Yeah, right.
Like he's so distinctive looking, and his style is so unique. He was just somebody that, even just on that like first glance, you're kind of like drawn to him straight away. He's just one of those absolute legends within that scene.
He's definitely somebody who you see him once and you don't forget him. He's also very captivating. Like, it's hard to, especially like he's got such a unique look. And I don't mean that like a disparaging way at all. No. But like, because I know some people could twist that, so I'm just making sure I cover my base. But like you look at him and you're like, holy shit! Like this guy looks like he's nuts, but he's like, there's something about him. You're like, I want to know more. Like what's going on there? And then he puts up that crazy smile, and he just starts, the goggles come down, and here he goes.
Like well, actually, in this next clip that I was going to show, kind of links back to this. There's a very famous clip of Young Kasai with, was it the gusset in the head when he hit one of the gusset boards and is just absolutely drenched in blood. That's one of the moments that I saw that and I was like, I just can't imagine, It's just unbelievable.
That one, and I think it's Masada and Danny Havoc when he hits him in the side of the arm with the gusset like 2x4.
Yes,
and it's just like that.
Are there any moments, like even for you, say that kind of like get you?
I don't think there's moments like it, but like for example, I was so nervous because when I started wrestling for GCW, I felt like I did backyard wrestling. That was like my debut match, and then my next two matches after that, it was like something terrible happened in each one, and it was just like, I here I am like on the biggest stage I've been on, and I'm like not getting hurt, but like these awful things are happening to me, and I was like, I really hope this doesn't keep happening. But like I had that first match there with John Wayne Murdoch, and I just had like 4 or 5 holes in my hands, like both my hands, like just gigantic, like gaping holes. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then the second match I had in Colorado against Orrin Veidt, and the side of my arm got cut open, and the referee goes, just a heads up, I can see the inside of your muscle. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck? And then immediately it was just like, just get the tape, wrap it up, just get me tape and a towel, and like let's go. We got shit to do. And we did that shit. So, but it's not so much like oh my God, like I'm in trouble. It's more like, God damn it, like this is gonna slow me down, or this is gonna like make the match awkward. Like maybe it's me being selfish in the sense of like I'm trying to do my absolute best and like give it to all of you guys, but then I don't know. Maybe I'm wording that funny, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, 100%. I actually got the clips of that match that you just mentioned. That was one of those moments when I was watching it. It kind of scared, I guess, because it kind of reminded me of that Nick Gage moment, at the Tournament of Death, when he went through the ropes. Because instantly you reacted in a way that we're not used to seeing you react. so instantly I was like, oh no, something's happened, you know, and it was quite worrying, you know, for a fan. I can't imagine what it was like for you in that moment. But the fact that you mentioned the first thing you thought was, oh no, this is gonna slow down the match type thing. You know, that's the kind of a mentality that you have to have that in you, I think.
Yeah. It was definitely terrifying going back to the hotel room that night and just cleaning it up. But you see so much blood so fast, and you see like two big gaping holes, and you're like, God damn it. Like, but like physically, I know I can keep doing it. It's just like, you have to like kind of think to yourself, like, this is the first like main event I've ever had at this place. And like, it's a big match and it's leading into at the time the NGI, but then you're also like, is this going to fuck up my arm for the rest of my life type deal? So you kind of have to try to find a good balance between it. Right. And sorry, I'm really bad at this camera thing.
Oh, that's okay.
There we go. So it was a moment. We'll just leave it at that. It was a moment.
It always seems to be those moments where you're on the biggest stage. For instance, poor Ali at the GCW versus the World show, and it's like, I mean, there's never a good time, right? It's an awful thing to say, but it's like, did it have to be now? It's just awful. Obviously everybody wishes a very speedy recovery as well. Were you watching backstage on the monitor? Because you'd obviously had that opening match when that injury happened.
At that time, I wasn't. I was kind of like getting through everything that just happened. There's a lot of people coming up to try to talk to you. At the same time, I'm like trying to go see the missus at the merch table and everything and get everything sorted there. And I kind of just heard through the grapevine, hey, this just happened. And I was like, oh shit, really? So you don't want to see anybody get hurt, especially, on a grand stage like that. And not like it's not like just like an injury. Like that's a big injury.
Yeah.
And then of all places for it to happen into New York, where the commission is like the absolute worst. And they're sitting there, like, don't get me wrong. I know both aspects of it, where it's good that there's an ambulance there, but then you can't let the ambulance can't leave, because then you have to wait for the next one to get there so that the show can continue. And then they have all these weird procedures where they make people all get out of the way before they move someone. If you can move someone and people don't have to get out of the way, get them out of there as fast as you can. There's an ambulance there. Just get them in that ambulance and go. But they have all these weird rules and restrictions, and it's just so stupid.
It seems to be the curse of the GCW at the Hammerstein shows, for all the effort that goes in beforehand, something seems to happen, it's so unfortunate,
Yeah, it is unfortunate.
One of the big things in the deathmatch scene are the iconic tournaments. There's so many, and there's so many, like we mentioned, the iconic venues. There's the iconic tournaments, obviously. You've actually won a couple of tournaments recently. What are some of the iconic ones that you'd say love to be in this year?
Well, very excited to be in Tournament of Survival. That was like, oh, okay. I guess I was like, we're doing that. Let's go. I'm trying to think of the other tournaments, because I've been in. I won the Insane 8. I'm going to be in that again. I was really excited about that one. That one meant a lot to me. King of the Kills, a really cool one, but did that one. I did King of the Deathmatch. That was all right. I don't know. The Death Wish Cup was a really cool one to win earlier this year. That one meant a lot. Doing it in Chicago, where, I now reside, and like, at the Berwyn Eagles Club, which is one of my favorite venues. It's a venue that has so much history, especially in like women's wrestling, indie wrestling, like, and like my friend Tommy Trainwreck, he owns We Love Wrestling, and it was just such an honor to be like the guy who wins the first one. And then like my first round match, it had storytelling. It was just, there were so many aspects to it that were so cool. But like going forward, like we were just saying, Tournament of Survival, you've seen the entrance so far. It's so cool. I can't wait. It's in Atlantic City, which, you know, I got to make my Atlantic City debut like a few weeks ago, or like a few weeks ago, I'd say. And that crowd is insane. That place is insane. And the fact that it's going to be June when like, so like Atlantic City and Las Vegas, I would say are like the two places in America, at least I could be very wrong on this, in America where like gambling is at its highest. But
Right.
unlike Las Vegas, Atlantic City has like seasons. Like when it's nice out, it's crazy there. When it's not nice out, it's kind of depressing looking outside of like the show. But like this will be when it's very in season. So I'm curious to see like what Atlantic City in general is like.
Yeah. I'm really excited for Tournament of Survival this year. I've actually done little highlights the last few years of Tournament of Survival on the channel. Feel free to check those out, guys. It's always a very special night in the calendar. One of the most iconic kind of death matches over the years was the Cage of Death in CZW. You were actually on the Cage of Death show this year. Not in the actual Cage of Death, but on the actual show. What was that show like? And in the future, you know, how cool would it be to actually be in that Cage of Death match?
Oh, it'd be so cool. That's why I'm kind of hoping that I can be in the Cage of Survival this year. But you know, it'd be awesome. It was cool. It was pretty nostalgic. I will say this building was absolutely freezing cold when it happened.
Oh no.
It was very hard to enjoy things with how cold the building was. But you know, it would be cool. I'd always be down for it. Growing up, I'll always remember the one Cage of Death. It was like New Jack, Trent Acid. There were like all the classics were in it, and you know, it was cool making my Combat Zone debut. It's another one I could check off the list. You know, growing up, seeing, like you said, seeing all the grainy clips and all of the insane things. I would love to do Tournament of Death too. That would be cool. But you know, we'll see. Time will tell.
Being thrown through the ironing board there.
I'm telling you, ironing boards are great. I'm all for it. I love like a good, like, don't get me wrong, I love the tubes, I love the pains, all the normal stuff, but I love when we get some of the like weird, wacky things too, like the ironing boards or the trash can, or someone did, what was it? Barbed wire wrapped crutches, which, you know, a bit excessive, but we'll take it. It's different. But some of the like weirder stuff, I'm all for it. Let's get more weird.
Well, that's it. I mean, kind of like, well, there's always that saying, isn't there, that you can't do anything new in wrestling. Everything's been done before. But I always think that's for people who are maybe not that creative. You know, there's always a spin you can do. Or even if it's something that's been done before, you can always slightly twist it and create something new.
For sure. I totally agree. And, you know, like you were saying, you make the most of what you're given. If they give you lemons, you try to make lemonade. If you can't, oh well. But if the more creative you get, the more different you can be, try it. Why not?
What was I going to say next there? I was going to mention something about the show there. Not sure. I lost my train of thought there. I do apologize. But I had to get you on the podcast, and I mentioned this in the first message I sent you. And I'm not paid to say this, guys. We haven't talked about he hasn't paid me to say this, but you have the most incredible merch on the scene. I absolutely adore every t-shirt design that you've thrown out. Do you work with the same designer all the time, or is these all different designers?
Actually, the three you've shown are all three different people. That one is from Seozawa from Japan. This one and the first one are from this guy JCP. I think he works at AEW now. This one, and then the Garbage Pail Kid ones, is a guy named Dick Starr. He's great. Oh, this one is this guy from Canada. I forget his name. He's great though. He does a lot of this like twisted metal style artwork though.
Mm.
But I always try to make things, in my opinion, that I would wear. Like if I'm not going to wear it, why am I going to put it out there? I definitely have maybe like one or two designs that were put out there that like someone just put on the internet, and people were like, "Hey, if you do this, I'll buy it." And I was like, "Well, clearly there's some sort of demand for this, so I'll put it out there." But 90 to 95% of the stuff I put out, I only put it out because I would personally wear it.
Mm. Like with those designs, they're obviously things that you're really into. Like we had
Yeah.
Sesame Street, but like, do you have a lot of input in those, or is it usually people coming to you with their ideas?
Almost always, like I'll find an artist that like appeals to me, or I'll pitch an idea and I'll let them put their spin on it. Because I always like that with like, especially because I get a lot of tattoos, and I'll tell the artist like, "Hey, this is what I had in mind, but because I like your art, I want you to put your like spin on it, your style." Because you don't want to go to somebody and be like, "I want you to do it this exact way," whatever. When it's like, so then why go to that artist? Why not just go to somebody who can cut and paste? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you're going to that artist because you like their style. I've definitely had a few that have like spitball designs at me, and I was like, "This is cool, but why don't we try instead of ABC, we do, XYZ?" So it's like same idea, but we'll switch things up a little bit. So I always try to put some input. I've had a few where they came to me with like I had one shirt. It's like a blue shirt, and it's got like a bunch of different photos on it. And I was like, "Hey, instead of this photo or that photo, why don't you try like a different photo or just anything else?" And they would, and I'd be like, "Perfect, I love it. That's good to go."
Do you have any more in the pipeline that you've
Um,
got some ideas ticking around there somewhere?
I just had two that just came out. One, funny enough, this one I didn't have any input on it at all, and it's kind of like that Reanimator horror movie, that the old Reanimator movie, where it's like me like dripping down the mist, and like the missus is like down there as like the patient, and it looks like I'm like putting the mist onto her, but there's like little Easter eggs in the shirt, like there's like a hidden Mickey in the shirt.
Yeah.
People here know I'm like a big energy drink guy, and like he put like two of the energy drink logos I like on like a can in the background, and
Right.
on like a cool operating table. And then I just had one come out where I don't know if you know what this is, if you've been there, because I know they don't have them in England, but Waffle House, big
Right.
Waffle
Yeah.
House fan. And it's Waffle House is unfortunately maybe not unfortunately, but they are known for having fisticuffs from time to time at a Waffle House. And it says like "Welcome to the Asylum" on it, and it's got my head over the Waffle House, and my name is in the Waffle House like logo and everything. So we did some of those. I will say there might be a Japan shirt coming out, and there might be a TOS shirt coming out. So be on the lookout.
I'll put the link below, guys.
Unfortunately, Deathmatch Worldwide, you can't put that link anymore because they have closed shop. So, which is very unfortunate and very frustrating. But I am working on a pro wrestling tee store. It'll hopefully be up in the week. I just got approved for it like an hour ago. Like yeah. So I gotta get on it. But I'm sure if they watch this, be on the lookout. Pro wrestling tees, I'll have one up. Unfortunately, well, maybe not unfortunately, it was like the only option I had. So bear with me, everybody. We'll get there.
But yeah, as soon as it's up, send me a message, and we can always change the bio afterwards and put the link in there as soon as it's ready. I have to ask you, and
sure,
because my wife would kill me if I didn't ask you this. I know that you are a big Disney fan, which is something. Hey, I got my Disney just for you, man. But I had to get it out today. My wife, obviously, people who watch this channel will know she's a massive Disney fan and is a Disney vlogger as well.
Hell yeah.
So she has asked me some questions that I have to ask. Quick questions. Right, first one. Have you actually seen the new Snow White film?
Nope. I don't really have much interest in it either. Not gonna it's not
Okay.
for like weird reasons or anything like that. I'm just gonna be honest. All the live action movies have been terrible.
Hmm.
None of them have been good. And it's funny that the Lion King one is referred to as a live action movie when none of the animals are real and it's just a different form of animation. So I don't really have any interest in it. I mean, maybe I'll see it. I might just wait till it comes out on to Disney Plus, but I don't know.
Yeah, we always try and see the positive side in things. We're pretty happy
The
go
tough one.
lucky here, but yeah, it's not the best. The nicest way of putting it. Yeah, not the best.
It's pretty rough looking. Not gonna lie.
You, from watching different interviews and podcasts that you've been on before, I know that you go to the parks and you collect the pins from around the world as
Oh
well.
yeah.
What are some of your favourite Disney pins that you've picked up over the years?
I'm not gonna lie. Last time we were in Japan, all the pins we got
Mm.
from so in Tokyo Disney, their like pin trading isn't like a huge thing over there.
Okay.
I like you can't like it's I you guys frequent America or Paris? Is that like your like
Well, funnily enough, we started going to Florida more often than Paris, which is, Paris is like an hour on the ferry for us.
yeah,
It's not that far. But yeah, it seems to be Florida is the main one that we have started going to these days.
hell yeah. Florida, in my opinion, maybe not the best park in the like. I think Tokyo, you could definitely tell they put a lot of money into it. There's a lot of love. They definitely like they because it's not owned by Disney. It's owned by the Oriental Land Company, and you could definitely tell that they put like their heart and soul into it. I'm not saying that Florida or America doesn't, but it's because it's like a publicly owned company. You could definitely tell that they have like a bunch of things they have to like get through before they can do cool stuff. And I think it's more business, but that's besides the point. I could be totally wrong. It doesn't matter. But in America, pin trading is a big thing. It's a big old thing. In Japan, it is not. They have like 12 pins every couple months, and that'll be it. But all the ones we got, I was like, these are incredible. They're fantastic. Paris, the one time I was there, it was near impossible to like find anything. It was a good park. I only did the main. I only did Disneyland Paris while I was there, but I know the secondary park is rated like the worst Disney park out of all of them.
Yeah, that's
But
it.
uh,
I mean,
love
there's some
Florida.
great things there, but yeah, when you go to Paris and then you go to like say Florida afterwards, you're like, oh my god, this is massive.
Yeah. Also, and I'm gonna say this as nice as I can. The employees at the Paris park, not so nice. Not so
No,
nice at all.
not quite as friendly. It's not quite the same friendly Disney experience that you get
Yeah,
in the
there's not a lot
Florida.
of magic there.
What is your favorite Disney animated movie?
Oh, okay. It partially counts, but Roger Rabbit definitely
Mm-hmm.
my favorite movie. Nightmare Before Christmas probably my second. And then when it gets to the third, it's all over the place. Like Robin Hood is fantastic. I love Robin
Yeah.
Hood. It's a classic. But then I really appreciate like Toy Story 3. Love that
Yeah.
movie. Lotso, what a good villain. What a good villain.
Yeah.
Honestly, Toy Story 2, pretty sick movie also. Up or like Wally, fantastic movies, perfect. Yeah, we'll go with those answers for now. We'll go with those answers for now because with Disney, there's like the sub movies where it's like you have like the Three Caballeros or like the Three Little Pigs, which is like, it's what like a half hour long, but it's considered like a Disney film, but it's not really a Disney film. So it's like, those ones are really good too, though. But I have love for all of the Disneys.
When you were growing up, like, was it always like a kind of an amalgamation of Disney lore and wrestling at the same time, or when you were growing up, was it kind of, did it alternate between the two?
Okay, so when we were at that like sweet spot of between like 6 to 10, it was like Disney, wrestling, Godzilla,
Mm.
like Star Wars, and then sort of GI Joe. Um, but yeah, you reach like your teens or your like preteens, and like Disney isn't as cool anymore, and you kind of go through that like phase of, oh, I don't like this. But
Yeah.
I was super into wrestling, and then I had a falling out with wrestling, and then I was really into like local like hardcore punk rock music scene and all that, and then you get drawn back to wrestling because then like CM Punk started getting super popular at one point, and he's straight edge, I'm straight edge, like it was that like tie between the music scene and wrestling, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then Disney would just pull me back in, and then yeah, it's just kind of all now it all blends together. But at one point they would come and go, but now it's all together, so we're at a much happier place now.
Yeah. Well, I'm straight edge as well. I've been
Hell yeah.
straight edge like 2003-ish, somewhere around there.
Fuck yeah.
But yeah, the same as you. It was through that like hardcore punk scene, and like I'd read about bands like Glassjaw who were, and then Daryl was like straight edge, and I was like, what is this? And that's kind of how I got into it, and it's just always stuck.
When they were the Glassjaw.
When they were the Glassjaw.
Yeah, then they switched it over, and now none of them are straight edge.
No, I know, completely different. It just left me
very far from it. Yeah.
I always remember that story. It was my brother's gonna kill me. I can't think of his name. He's one of his favorite artists. The guy from the movie Life, Vinny.
Oh, Vinny, very nice guy.
Yes, lovely guy. There was an old podcast like years and years ago, and he was talking, and I think he was talking to Daryl from Glassjaw the one day, and he's like, why are you still straight edge? It's like they just kind of tipped him over the edge, and then he just completely changed. But going back to the deathmatch scene, the deathmatch scene is very, very similar, I think, to that kind of straight edge hardcore scene. It is very community based. Everybody kind of comes together. It's got this DIY aesthetic to it. Why do you think the two are, seem to be so closely linked?
If you think about it, it's a niche inside of a niche. So
right.
Like pro wrestling is like it's not something you brag about, or most people don't, you know what I mean? And then indie wrestling is, the niche with inside that thing you don't brag about. And then you're like, oh wait, now here's deathmatch wrestling, which is now, it's like where what's that movie? Where it's like a dream with inside of a dream.
Inception.
Yeah, we're like in the Inception now, because it's like the niche with inside the niche inside the niche. So it's a smaller scene. It's like going to see like any local band or any, like any hardcore show where, they're playing on a stage right in front of you at some local pub in your scenario, or just like a really small little concert venue, as opposed to, some big giant place where they're 50 feet away from you and there's all these crazy lights and, costumes and all this. So I think it's just very similar in that scenario. Yeah, I guess that's the best way I could put it. I thought there was more, but I don't got anything else.
Yeah, that's okay. I know I do that sometimes. Even when I'm asking a question, all of a sudden I'm like, "What was I asking there? What was I going with that?" So, with that deathmatch scene, well, I'll link it back this way. Me and my wife on our channel, we review matches that Dave Meltzer has rated 5 stars, right?
Wow.
And
okay.
we kind of talk about, we go through the match, and then we kind of discuss with each other if we agreed with our rating or not. That's kind of our thing. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, and we kind of have fun arguing over it in a nice way. One of the most recent ones was the match between Toni Storm and Mariah May. And I think that is probably the closest match to a death match that you're going to get in a major promotion. And the fact that it had 5 stars from like somebody like Dave Meltzer who's putting it out there. Somebody who's maybe been overly critical towards deathmatch wrestling in the past. So to give a match like that 5 stars, I think kind of shines quite a big light on it, because you kind of get that trickle down then. Because there's not many matches that you see on mainstream TV that have glass spots, and things like that. But do you think that that's kind of like a good thing to kind of showcase it out there, or is it too much of like a watered down version for you?
So I'm gonna be honest. I didn't see the match. I've had a ton of people it's on the back burner. I'll tell you. I've been told to watch it. I want to watch it. I'm gonna be honest. The last real full AEW thing I watched was when Nigel McGuinness came back, because I'm such a fan myself. Yeah. But it looks really cool. The fact that a lot of people said this is the closest we've seen to a death match on TV since probably Nick Gage and Jericho. That's really cool. It's cool that, like, you could say the women did it. It's cool that Meltzer gives it the 5 stars because it shines the light on. The issue that you're going to get to after that, and I'll bring this back to music, for example, is that mainstream light gets put on it. So you're going to get good and bad in it, where like the good will be all these new fans coming to it, but then the bad is going to be now you have all these new fans that can come and shit on it. You know what I mean? Or like point out the bads. Or then you get things like, for example, like what's that band's name? There's Knocked Loose, and then what's that other new band's name? They're not a new band, but they're like super hot right now. What is their name? It's killing me right now. Members of Trapped Under Ice, and I can't think of their name right now. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, of course.
Hold on. We're getting a phone friend.
We will find out that band, guys. We will find out who it is. See, this is what happens. It's like me with that. All
right, we're back. Hold on.
I was trying to think of Vinny's name. Sometimes you just can't fire it off in your head.
Yeah, Turnstile. So
Turnstile, yeah, of course.
Like Turnstile and Knocked Loose are like, they're sort of hardcore bands, sort of not hardcore bands, but that's like they're the ones who would be like the mainstreamy bands now, and now they put that light on it. So something that, like, for example, like you and me, if we were like, yeah, I love going to this thing, I love seeing it, but now you have this giant spotlight on it, so you have all these new people. It's like, it's tough because it's good for the sport, but because it's like a niche, should be underground thing, it kind of desensitizes it, but also it's a really hard conversation to have like out loud right now, because like I can see both good and bad in it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. When you were giving that answer, when you said this kind of the good and the bad, immediately I was thinking of this last week when the clip that's gone viral of John Moxley landing on the bat with the nails in. Something I would never do. Yes. I cannot think of anything worse. That's
a rough one.
But you get so many people praising it. Yeah, this is pushing the envelope. This is really good. It's bringing a different scene to mainstream TV. But then there's so many podcasts just throwing dirt at it straight away, and obviously that's going to have that trickle down effect as well, like you said.
Yeah. So it's frustrating because there's going to be goods and bads that come with it. You just have to really think to yourself, is it going to be more positive? Like, are the pros going to outweigh the cons? That's really what it comes down to. Or are you willing to deal with whatever cons do come out of it? Because don't get me wrong, it'd be way cooler to see more deathmatch guys get signed or more deathmatch guys make appearances on TV. Like, if you think about it, like looking back, it's crazy that Mick Foley was on TV. And it's great that he was, because he was good. He's a great character. But if you look at like a lot of the guys, then they're like bodybuilders and this and that. And then you watch him and he is not a bodybuilder, and he doesn't have that clean, crisp style. It's very like rugged and raw. And like personally, I appreciate stuff like that. I think it's great. But there's got to be so many people that were like, what the fuck is this guy doing on TV?
Like if you grew up on wrestling like in the 90s, Cactus Jack obviously in WCW was one thing. He was pushing the envelope even then, with his like dives to the outside from the ring apron.
Him and Sting, or him and Vader, just beating the shit out of each other.
But then when he went to obviously can't quite, I think it may have been the same time actually. He did the ECW run, and then obviously the famous tournament in Japan.
I think
Kawasaki
he had
Dream.
just signed to WWE at the time, because he had told Vince that he still had commitments to Japan. Don't quote me completely on that, but I'm almost positive that's the scenario.
But that's a crazy scenario in itself.
I
bet he didn't quite explain everything that he was going to be doing in those matches at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't even really know it all that well himself going into it, but the stories that come out of that are insane.
Well, that's it. I think he mentioned funnily enough, we mentioned that book twice tonight. It's going to be one of those I'm going to have to go back and read. But I remember him saying something ridiculous, like when he got the check for that tournament, it was like $500 or something for the whole tournament. And he was like,
the story I remember the most from it is when he's flying back, and he had first class. I believe he had first class on the way back. And because he smelt like burning flesh or whatever. Yeah. And like the lady next to him was like, I'll go sit and coach. And I just think that's so funny.
But that's something that I think people don't realize as well. Obviously, like they see you have these matches and everything, but you've then got to travel from that place either back home or to another place as well, and you've got to be like, sure, whether it's on a plane or in the car, how discomfortable, uncomfortable even it is to travel around.
There's that time where I was just mentioning where I got my hands all cut open, not the one that you showed the footage of, but the other match. I had done a show the night before in Detroit, and then we had that show in Detroit, and then you get in the car. That was a van at the time that's just packed with people, and you're in the car for another 5.5 hours. And, you stop at the truck stop, which, don't get me wrong, there are some truck stops in America here with very clean showers. I was pleasantly shocked. But, you have these holes in your hand and these wounds, and you're just in so much pain. Like, it's such an awkward feeling, because you're physically and mentally tired. But because your hands are in so much pain, you can't fall asleep or get comfortable. So you're just like, and like we were saying, we're straight edge, so you and me, we're not doing crazy drugs or nothing like that. Like, no, I'll take my ibuprofen and all that shit, but like I'm just sitting there just dealing with it, and I'm not complaining or nothing like that, but that's just like, that's a view inside of like, that's what I get to deal with.
I mean,
so
yeah, I can't imagine. I step on a piece of Lego and it's like, I won't stop moaning about it for the next 2 days,
Yeah, I get it.
What are some of the well, let's put it this way, what is the worst item that you've used in a death match where it's kind of had the least effect, say, on the crowd or anything, but it's the most painful to you, and then kind of something that looks really painful but maybe isn't quite as painful?
Okay, to the first part, and this sucked, and it will always be top 5, like, oh my god, that hurts so bad. So I did a no-ring match against the Necro Butcher, which, red flag right off the bat. Like, yep. That's how you know the story is going to be interesting already. So this motherfucker picks up a mic stand, and it's one of the circular mic stands which is pretty much just the circular part of the bottom is like a weight to keep the mic stand level and whatever. So it's essentially like he's hitting me on the side of the head with a brick. So he swings it at the side of my head and like kind of, scrapes it. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. Here we go. The second one, that guy came back and hit me so hard. I thought I had that like UFC ear. And I was like checking like my ears to make sure they weren't all like blown up. And I couldn't hear for like 30 seconds out of my left ear. And I'm just like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And then one that didn't look like it hurt, but this is also funny enough to the ears. I did this match that wasn't even filmed in San Diego, California. And I was working this guy named Terex, great guy, California guy, big guy, really big guy. And it was a place where they had those like, I don't know if you know them, but they're like, I refer to them as like white party rental chairs. They're plastic folding chairs, but they're not steel. So he puts my head on a chair and then he swings another chair at my head. And I don't know how he did it, but he somehow, the top part of my ear here was just slit down the middle and parts of the ear was just hanging and like wobbling. But I didn't realize it at first. And for whatever reason, this match was a like 40-minute tag match. And this happened within the first, like, I don't know, 13 minutes or so of the match. Once again, non-filmed. I don't get why the match was so long. This is just, they're like, yeah, we got to go out there. We got to really, really stretch the match. And I was like, oh, do we though? Like, okay, sure. And then, whatever, we stop brawling and I get back up onto the ring apron and I'm like, what's that weird breeze? Like, we're fighting outside. So, it's a little different. I'm like, what's that breeze though? And then I'm like, I could feel blood or some liquid dripping into my ear, like down into like the ear hole. I'm like, that's something that happens all too often. And then I reach up and went, oh my God, part of my ear is disconnected right now. Or it's just like hanging on by like a strand. So then after we had to go to a Walgreens, go get super glue and just super glue my ear back together. And, the missus, let me tell you, she crushed it on that. It's there. Can't really tell. You have to really look hard to notice where it was. But at the time, it was like, well, I might have a lot more in common with Mick Foley real soon. But thankfully, me and Mick do not have that part in common. So
even the clip of that Mick Foley bit, they somehow found fan footage, I think, in that match in Germany. And it's so grainy and it's so far away. But you could still see it when it actually disconnects. And, it's horrible. Awful.
Gross. Unfortunate.
Yes. Quickly before I let you go and get on with the rest of your day here, where do you see the Dr. Redacted character going, per se? Do you think it's something that you're always going to be, or do you think it's something that this is going to be this phase of your wrestling career?
So when I first started it, I was kind of like just trying to do the Dr. Cube thing without the mask. And then I was like, oh, I clearly have to be a heel. I have to be this evil doctor. And then people started cheering for me. Houston, Texas turned me face for whatever reason, or not heel. Like they all started high-fiving me and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And then it kind of became like I was this, like a wild animal just set loose almost. But now it's sort of becoming like, am I the doctor or am I the patient who killed the doctor? Or maybe just, it's like that weird perfect world of both. So it's kind of evolving, kind of not evolving. It goes in all, but the thing that's great about being a crazy person is crazy people will do crazy things. So like, there was the promo that I put up for my match with Takeda, where you might say that this persona that I take over is like my Dude Love persona. Like where it's a little bit wackier or like zanier. When I was in Japan, they were really into doing post-match promos. And I actually did it with a wrestler from the UK. His name is Shreddy. He's great. He's fantastic. He's just the picture perfect body guy heel. And he's very like serious, and so we, for whatever reason, they put us together as a tag team, not doing deathmatch one night, and it was just a very goofy, not goofy match, but it was a goofy tag team of us to do. And I don't know if you remember, like when Booker T and Goldust used to tag team, and it was
Right.
just like polar opposites. After me and him did this promo, that was like a combination of Booker T and Goldust meets Scott Steiner doing the Samoa Joe math promo. And I had like some disconnected phone around my neck at the time, and we had a chalkboard, and we were doing math, and it got over so big in the UK and in America that I was like, oh, I should lean into this more. Like, I don't need to do these serial killer, like super serious Joker like promos. I could do, wacky, stupid stuff that's just like, oh, this guy's crazy. Who knows what direction he's going to go in type deal. So there's a lot of elements to it. But right now we're being the crazy guy. We're just rolling with it.
Do you think we're going to see more of Professor Chuck No Name?
Chuck Nameless, yeah.
Nameless, sorry.
Was it Professor Dr. Chuck Nameless? Great, also bald guy. I think he'll be popping up from time to time. He likes to stay in contact. He seems to be that guy who's getting all the scoops on the street right now.
He does.
We'll see where that pops up again.
Yeah, John seems to be, he's John Wayne Murdoch seems to be coming up with some crazy conspiracies about that character, but
frankly, I think it's just bald discrimination. He thinks we all look alike, so. Yeah. And to me, that's, like I said, it's just discrimination. But I think it also might have just been that John Wayne Murdoch might have just been all starstruck because Chuck Nameless, pretty popular guy.
Thank you so much for joining us for this podcast today.
Of course.
Taking time out from your busy schedule. I know that you've got some incredible stuff coming up this year. We mentioned the Japan tour. We've obviously got that Tournament of Survival coming up as well. What else have you got coming up this year? Is there anything else you want to plug that you've got coming up?
This weekend, like I said, me, John Wayne Murdoch, Takeda, that Chuck Nameless talked all about. Mm-hmm. Then the next day in Chicago, it's me and Lil Sicko. Those are both for ICW. Then coming up for GCW, we have Tournament of Survival. I'm trying to think of my May schedule. I might turn up in some new places. Well, not new places, but old places that I need to revisit, so to say. I also got to remember what I can and cannot say yet. There'll be a lot covered. There's a lot covered.
There's always that trouble, right? Where you're like,
yeah, because
I've kind of got it booked, but I don't know if it's announced yet.
Yeah, or I don't know what I'm doing. So it's like, yeah, I could be like, yeah, I'm going to be here, but you don't know who I'm facing. So it's kind of like, eh. But there's a lot of cool stuff on the horizon, and we'll get there. Be on the lookout. Hopefully I can get across the pond and get back to you guys. I feel bad. I owe you guys one. So we'll see. But time will tell.
Right, thank you again. Stay on the line a moment. We'll just wrap this podcast up, and we'll give a proper goodbye off the air now. There you go, guys. Another great interview today. We had Dr. Redacted on there. Make sure you check out all his matches. Like I said, I watch a lot of the GCW shows on Triller. Maybe different in your country, but keep an eye on all the different companies that Dr. Redacted works for. We've also going to put a link to that Pro Wrestling Tees store as soon as it becomes available, because like I said, wasn't paid to say this, he's got some of the best t-shirts in the world, the ones that I'm definitely going to put in my collection anyway. So thank you so much for watching again, guys. As we always say, look after each other. Peace. See you guys soon.